Okay, so just earlier I posted my TikTok talking about how the PSVR2 toolkit got its version 1.0 release and how you can now use the PSVR2 on Linux using a tool called Ignition. This is going to be my full TikTok talking about what it's like using it. Before I actually start talking about the experience, let's just get out of the way. What is Ignition? Essentially, it's running the Windows PSVR2 drivers since there's no Linux drivers because obviously Sony wouldn't want to support Linux because why would anyone? It takes those Windows drivers and runs them under Proton, but SteamVR is still running through Linux. I've actually just pulled up the GitHub page for Ignition so I can read off essentially how it works. Okay, so just looking at this, my best way to explain it is that SteamVR has its own native Linux driver that then interacts with the Windows Proton Ignition server that it's running that connects to the actual PSVR2 driver, and then takes those calls, sends them to the PSVR2 driver, is like, hey, what should I do here? Tells it what to do, and then goes back to the Linux driver, making it all work, which is really cool and impressive. But how important is the how does it work if it even works at all? You got to try it out yourself to see how it actually works. And can I just say, this thing is amazing. Now, I will just talk about how my setup experience went, because that could have been smoother. Half of it is my fault. Really, most of it's my fault, actually. So my first time setting up Ignition, I got into SteamVR, but because of my CashOS version was like too old and it had these weird NVIDIA tweaks that messed with VR, it would stutter like every few seconds and it was unplayable to use. So I reset my computer the first time and switched to EndeavourOS to see if that would work. And this is where everything became my fault. So on EndeavourOS, SteamVR gave me a fail error. Every time I installed the driver, it would just say that it failed. And this would happen every single time I tried to do anything, every time I reset, which I reset one more time to a base Arch install, I had to install regular Arch Linux, which I haven't done in like years. So that was already annoying. And it just wouldn't work at all. So I asked around in the Discord server, and this is like my computer's fault, really. So I had Proton, because you need Proton to run the Ignition server on the Windows side. But Proton was installed on my secondary drive where I just keep all my Steam games. So Steam said I had Proton Experimental installed, but in reality, the Ignition server could only connect to a Proton that's installed like on my main OS drive. So even though it said Proton was installed through Steam, it just actually wouldn't do anything. It wouldn't work at all. Eventually, I installed Proton 11 because that wasn't installed anywhere, and I installed that to my main OS drive, and then it worked. I'm back on CashOS, and it works perfectly fine. The PSVR2 is working great through Ignition now. Before I actually get into VR and go over how it looks in VR, how it works, how it feels, let me just talk about the setup process more in depth. I'm going to pull up the GitHub and go through like step by step how everything goes, because it's actually really easy. Okay, I have put myself in the top left corner, and we can now read through this guide right here. It's under the PSVR2 Toolkit's GitHub page in the wiki. It has the Linux support guide, and it's really easy to follow along with. Just install Steam and SteamVR. I wouldn't use the Flatpak version even if Ignition worked with it, because I just hate Flatpaks in general. That's my own thing, though. But Proton Experimental, make sure that is on your OS drive. You'll have a terrible time if not, as I said. PSVR2 app, that's just on Steam. JQ is literally in every distro's package manager. You can just use that to install it. XR hardware, you do need to run this specific script to install it. You can't install it from anywhere else, or I think it's the left controller, or one of the controllers just won't work. So I actually might say it on here. No, it doesn't. Yes, it does. I can't read. But then PSVR2 updater, because if you want to use you can use any version above 5.0 for the headset's firmware, but if you want to use the jailbreak, which gets you access to the eye tracking cameras, so you can use it with Babel to get better eye tracking, or if you want the headset rumble working, you need to be on a specific version, and I can show you the process. Super easy. Oh yes, and then you also need a Steam VR Linux fixes, which is just a wonderful thing that Caitlin and Supremium threw together that fixes some of the stuff that Valve has still not fixed with the Linux build of Steam VR, because Steam VR on Linux is truly not the best. Before I go into jailbreaking the headset and stuff, just using Ignition, really easy. Download the Ignition, put it somewhere on your computer, somewhere that the runtime can find it. Run this install script. 99% of people will have it installed in this place, so just do that. Literally copy paste this, go to that folder, copy paste this, install the toolkit by just copying a few files into the PSVR2 drivers, and then it works. Like, it's that easy. You connect the controllers via Bluetooth the same, and it's amazing. Audio was a bit weird. Room setup, you need a separate app, but that's way easy to set up. Audio is not the best because it's really weird. You have to like go down to your audio, like down here, right click and set it to. It says HDMI 2 on here. I use all of my display ports, so I think mine I had to set to HDMI 3. It doesn't matter if you plug in through HDMI display port. The headset's only display port actually, so but mine's set to HDMI 3. Just go through like all of those until you find which one works, and then that ends up working. And then there's just these few settings that make things way smoother. They're really easy to set. It's just one config file, add in these 2 lines, and you're good. You're set up for now. Everything works. Jailbreaking the headset, once you get to the firmware version 6, once you get to that firmware, it's easy. But getting to that firmware can depend. I think if some people's headsets are too new, that you can't get in the headset into recovery mode to downgrade. So if you do have one of those, you won't have the jailbreak. But you're only missing out on 2 things. It's the better eye tracking and the headset rumbles. So not missing out on much. And I think they're also working on trying to find a way to get it to work on those newer headsets anyway. So, whatever. But yeah, downgrading with recovery mode, it's literally you just run this software. It's a VR2 JB. And then it crashes the headset. You unplug it from the computer, plug it back in, turn it back on, and then just do that like 15 times, and then you'll be in recovery mode, and it's really easy to downgrade from there. Then you just run that same VR2 JB without any like thing, and then it just downgrades. That's it. Or not downgrades, it just does the jailbreak. And you never have to do that like whole unplug, plug back in thing ever again, as long as you're on the firmware version and don't accidentally update. But without further ado, let's hope my controllers are charged enough, and let's hop into VR. I'll actually show you the process of getting to VR. I have my headset on my bed right here. The wire's tangled. 1 second. Here's my headset. It's already on, actually. I forgot to turn it off, I guess. Oh! I swear I didn't touch anything. Yeah, when the headset's on, you can turn the controllers on. 1 second. Yeah, turn the controllers on. Then just launch Steam VR. I forgot to turn... Oh, no, I didn't turn the headset off, so I already have the jailbreak applied. Every time you turn the headset off, you do have to just run the one file again to get the jailbreak back, but I didn't do that, so I think one of my controllers is low on battery still. But let me get into VR. I'll be back. Okay, this should be working like good enough. This is my VR view you're seeing. I know I have like the top and the bottom and stuff, but it's going to be fine for the recording. But this is it. Steam VR fully working. My right controller is actually probably going to die while I do this, but it should end up being fine. If you see here, you can't look at the desktop built into Steam VR. That's a Steam VR issue. As I said, Linux Steam VR is neglected. Doesn't work with Wayland. If you're using the X11 as your compositor, it should work, I'm pretty sure, but most people use Wayland at this point, and that doesn't work. So I actually installed this app, WayVR, which just lets you put it here. It's like a simple keybind, and also I have this here on my hand, 4% on that controller, so that should be fine. I think I forgot to do audio, so yes, I can show you what you have to do. If I go down here to the audio and stuff, I right click. That's not right click. I actually don't even need to right click yet. Just click onto it. You can see it's set to HDMI 3, so I actually should be hearing. Oh, no, I can hear. What? Okay, whatever. I don't even think I set up my OBS to have audio. Maybe it'll work, but I don't know. Beat Saber should work, because... Oh, wait. I need to do my room view. This is not correct. Yeah, I can hear stuff, but like only sometimes. Okay, yeah, I can hear the game. Whatever, I don't know. It's not modded because don't have that right now. Audio is working. In fact, it's a bit too loud, so I'm actually just I'm just gonna turn it off. I don't want to get copywritten anyway, so you guys aren't hearing Beat Saber. Okay, so I kind of didn't realize that I didn't switch back to Beat Saber, so you can't see it for the rest of this, and you can't hear it either, which is really just funny. So I'm gonna cut to the end of this in a second, but yeah, just trust me, it works. I just realized I probably don't need to play Beat Saber for this long. I can just close that. What I will show you though is Babylonia, which can get you eye tracking. So if we look down the computer, as you can see right there, this is a camera, this counts, right? Those are my eyes. Close my right eye, left eye, kind of left eye, can't really, I'm bad at it, but as you can see, there is eye tracking stuff. I can't tell why one eye is like way bigger than the other, but you know, I have my glasses under the headset, so that's why there's rings around it, but this will let you do eye tracking and stuff like VR chat, which I'm not logged in, so I unfortunately can't show you, but this is proof that the jailbreak is working. This specific eye tracking, you need the jailbreak for. If you want to just use like the default headset eye tracking, that does work still, I'm pretty sure. I think if you don't have the jailbreak, it should fall back to that, so I'm just guessing with that. I actually have not looked up that. I can barely speak. I haven't looked that up at all. I'm just assuming it falls back to the default eye tracking. But yeah, like everything works perfectly. I don't want my right controller to die so bad. It's still at 4%, but this works. Like this is a full Steam VR Linux experience with PSVR 2. Something that before you would only get video from the headset and button inputs from the controllers. The controllers don't track at all under Monado, which is like a separate, like its own type of Steam VR where it's like a VR compositor, but it's completely separate from Steam and stuff. And it supports a ton of different headsets, but most of them can only do video. Their actual controllers don't really work yet still. It's for like wired headsets and stuff. But yeah, I'll get out of VR and wrap up the recording because there's not much left to show. I mean, this is it, PSVR on Linux. So yeah, there that was, PSVR 2 running fully natively on Linux. No Windows dual boot needed for VR at this point if you have a PSVR 2 and want to use Linux. That actually does mean that the only reason I have Windows now is to play Fortnite. That's the only thing that I still need Windows for. Everything else I've been able to successfully do on Linux, which is crazy. Like, Linux has come so far as an operating system over the years that you can practically do everything with it. This is also just great for the VR market because the PSVR 2 is one of the best PC VR headsets, surprisingly. Like, it was built for the PS5, but they didn't make nearly enough games for it to sell well. So they cut the price down a ton. It's like $300 right now for the PSVR 2, and you get all of your Steam library. You can now run it on any operating system you want. OLED screens, high resolution. The eye tracking is insane. I think this is the cheapest eye tracking headset that exists, which is mad. There's one downside to this headset, and it's the Fresnel lenses instead of the pancake lenses, because it's OLED that can do pancake lenses, but honestly, it's fine. I mean, I'm gonna get the Steam frame when that comes out, but this thing is a great headset. If you're fine with a wire, I have mixed feelings about the wire. I think I'd rather wireless, which is why I'm so excited for the Steam frame and the dongle, but this headset's great. If you don't have one and want to get into VR or want like a just great cheap headset, PSVR 2 is the way to go. But anyways, follow me on TikTok. Join the PSVR 2 Discord server for the toolkit and stuff. I'll have that in the description, as long as the GitHub for Ignition and the toolkit. And someday, maybe I'll upload again on YouTube, because I upload here very infrequently and only when I really need to talk about something for more than 2 minutes.